Hi guys, welcome again to Pathology in a Nutshell. My name remains Dr. Ben. Today we are going to be talking about cell injury. And a cell is said to be injured when the limit of its adaptive capacity has been exceeded or when the cell cannot adapt to a noxious stimulus. Okay, in our last video we talked about the various forms of adaptation. When the cell adapts and continues to adapt, and then the limit of that adaptive capacity is exceeded, the cell of course incurs injury. Or if the stimulus is very noxious and the cell is not permitted or allowed to adapt, cell injury occurs. Now, before we talk about the mechanisms of cell injury, I would like us to first look at the causes of cell injury. What are those things that happen to a cell and then injury comes about? Now, these causes of cell injury are actually the causes of the diseases that we find in living things, okay? And the first one we'll be talking about is oxygen deprivation. Oxygen deprivation, okay? We all know that cells need oxygen to survive, okay? And of course, when there is reduced oxygen or lack of oxygen, cells can be injured, a concept that is called hypoxia. Okay, and these things can result maybe from pneumonia, from respiratory diseases, or even obstructive diseases that do not allow oxygen to get in. Okay, another cause of cell injury is what? Infections, infectious agents. Infectious agents. Okay, I don't think I need to say much about infectious agents. You know that infectious agents, microorganisms enter cells, destroy cells, and eventually lead to disease. Okay, physical agents also. Physical agents. Okay, like extremes of temperature, trauma because of road traffic accident, all of those physical agents, radiation, are all physical agents and they can cause cell injury. What about chemical agents? Chemical agents can also cause cell injury. Okay, most of the common chemical agents we know are drugs, medications that we take. Okay, and of course you know that some overdose can cause cell injury. Some chemicals we use even in our households can cause cell injury. One common one in our environment that people even use for suicide, what we call sniper, is a chemical agent, and of course it can cause cell injury. Okay, what about genetic diseases? Genetic diseases can cause cell injury. Okay, so when people have genetic problems, okay, that can lead to cell injury. Usually cancers are the common forms of acquired genetic diseases that we have in our environment, where a cell incurs a genetic damage and then becomes malignant. Okay, and of course we also have certain genetic diseases like Down syndrome, okay, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and other forms of diseases that have genetic implications or that result from genetic alterations are causes of cell injury. Okay, immunologic diseases. Immunologic diseases are also causes of cell injury. Okay, so sometimes hypersensitivity reactions, of course we know one very common one, asthma, a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, okay, can cause cell injury. Autoimmune diseases. In autoimmune diseases, the cells, the immune cells of the body begin to attack host tissue, okay, and that of course can lead to cell injury. And then finally, nutritional imbalance. Nutritional imbalance. Nutritional imbalance. Okay, so of course lack of nutrients can cause cell injury because nutrients are needed to supply the cells with metabolic substrates, and if we don't get enough nutrients, Okay, cells can be injured. Examples in kwashiorkor, in marasmus, sometimes an excess of nutrients, as we see in obesity, or in obesity, we see that can even result in cell injury. So these are the causes of cell injury, and you'll discover that you can classify most of the human diseases, most of the animal diseases under any of these causes, because like we said, diseases are manifestations of cell injury. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is reversible cell injury. Reversible cell injury. So, when cells are injured, like we said, they can either be reversible or they can be irreversible. Usually, reversible injury occurs when a cell is exposed to a mildly noxious stimulus, or the cell can significantly, manage, the intensity of that particular stimulus. And there are features of reversible cell injury, and those are the things that we are going to be looking at. And so that when these features are there, there is hope for the cell to return to normal. But again, there are certain features that by the time we begin to see them in a cell, or by the time a cell experiences those changes, we know that the cell has reached its point of no return. It will definitely go on to cell death. And those features are features of irreversible cell injury. So what are those features of reversible cell injury? Number one is cell swelling. Okay, so the cell increases in size, and that is usually because of a failure of the sodium potassium ATPase. Okay, the sodium potassium ATPase. Now, because of that failure, due to probably ATP depletion, a lot of fluid gets into the cell. Okay, a lot of water gets into the cell, accompanying sodium. Okay, and that leads to cellular edema. Apart from that, apart from the cell swelling, there's what we call cytoplasmic blebs. Cytoplasmic blebs. Cytoplasmic blebs. As the cell swells, some portions of the cytoplasm begin to bleb out. So they begin to more like as if to say they are budding. But this is actually as a result of weakness. Weakness in the cytoplasmic membrane. Other things that happen is that the organelles inside the cell will also swell. And for endoplasmic reticulum, the ribosomes will begin to detach from the endoplasmic reticulum. So there's organellar swelling. So organelles also swell. There's detachment of ribosomes, ribosomal detachment. What else are we going to see? We are going to see the formation of what? Of myelin figures. These myelin figures are actually as a result of cell membrane injury and then deposition of phospholipids. So we'll see myelin figures. These features are, apart from cell swelling, cellular edema, so these features are ultrastructural, so they are majorly seen in electron microscopy. And sometimes there may also be certain nuclear changes, so the nucleus may also acquire some non-specific changes in reversible injury. So nuclear changes. Now Of course, the point of no return, there is no specific indication of the point of no return, but it is generally agreed that as soon as there's lysosomal damage, as soon as the lysosomal membrane has been damaged and those enzymes leak out into the cell is said to have entered a state of irreversible injury. Okay, so this is basically some of the things we need to know about reversible injury and irreversible injury. Next, we will talk about the mechanisms of cell injury, but I'm going to leave that for the next video. That will be our part 2 of cell injury before we now proceed to cell death. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I would like you to subscribe. I would like you to like. I would like you to also share so that others can benefit. And please, in the comment section, write topics that you would like us to summarize. Thank you so much and see you in the next one.